What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today I'm coming in with the long-awaited Rehab Part 2. Now, where I left off in the last video, well, actually, no, let's back up. Before I dive into that, I would like to mention a couple things. First off, drop a like on this video if you guys do enjoy. Second off, my P.O. Box, once again, for those of you guys who didn't see my video yesterday, the overdose Q&A video, is going to be in the top of the description. If you guys want to mail me stuff, go ahead. I'm going to touch on this every video for the next couple days. And also, hit me up on PSN. My PSN name is AssEaterGBLN, no spaces. It'll be in the description and the comments as well. So I accept all friend requests. Hit me up. I play with subs occasionally. And yeah, let me know if you guys are enjoying the Call of Duty gameplay as well. I think it's really refreshing. I've really enjoyed Modern Warfare Remastered. You guys probably aren't going to see very much Infinite Warfare gameplay, but definitely some Modern Warfare Remastered gameplay. Expect a lot of it. So hold on, let me spit out my gum. But anyways, hope you guys do enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. And without further ado, let's dive into it. So where we left off in the last one, I'd gotten to the hospital, strapped into the bed, had, the stuff attached to me, those little circle sticker things they put on you to take your vitals, had some sort of fluid running through me. I assume it was water, but I don't really know because I never really bothered to check, and even if I did, I don't think I could have comprehended what it was at this time. I was tripping so hard. But anyways, so I'm sitting here in this hospital bed. I'm laying here, and, at first it's just me and the nurse in there. My parents aren't there yet. And then my dad comes in the room. My dad's talking to the nurse, and I'm just still sitting here completely zonked out. Like, I'm looking at the ceiling and just seeing, like, faces coming out of the, like, little styrofoam, not styrofoam, like, that ceiling material in schools where, like, it's just really, like, cheap and, like, shitty, and it has all those, like, different colored specks and shit. You know what I'm talking about? That was the ceiling material at this hospital. So I'm looking up and just seeing, like, faces in it and, like, different things, and, like, it's just moving and wiggling, and, like, it's almost like faces are coming out of it. I'm just staring at the ceiling because I'm just in awe at this point. I'm just like, holy fuck, this is insane. And I'm sitting there, my dad comes in, is talking to the nurse who's in there. The nurse asks, like, oh, has this ever happened before? Do you know what he did? Fill me in. And I didn't really chime in too much on their conversation. I didn't really listen or say anything because I was too busy looking around at just all the stuff in the room. Like, I was just so fascinated by every little thing. Like, I looked down at the bed, I looked over at the wall, I looked at the ceiling. The ceiling I stared at the most just because that fucking pattern, dude. Oh my God. It was kind of scary, and then, I remember, I was sitting in there and laying there, and then my mom showed up after my dad, and they kind of sat down next to me for a little bit. The nurse stayed in there, and then eventually that nurse left, another nurse came in. I don't know any of these people's names. I kind of remember what they look like. The first nurse was like this kind of chubby white chick, and then she left, and this like older white dude who was bald, he came in and like came up next to me and did something. I think it was with the fluid or something like that. He came up like really close to me and like stuck something in my arm. I don't know what it was, but I was just laying there, and I remember he leaned down to like do whatever he was doing. I don't really recall what it was, and he had a G-Shock on. It was a nice one. It was like a black and gold one. So I just look at him and I just go, G-Shock, and then I just start smiling, and he just starts laughing his ass off like he's just losing his shit. And like, that's the only thing that I could comprehend. Like, I just kept saying G-Shock. Like, I said it like 5-6 times. And I just shut up and like turned my head back to the ceiling and just looked back up. So, after that nurse dude with the G-Shock, and we're just going to call him G-Shock dude, did whatever he had to do. I don't remember if he stepped out of the room because I was just staring at the ceiling, completely like zoned out of everything else. And I look over finally, however much time had gone by. I don't know. Didn't really keep track of time, so like I can't tell you guys how much time went by. But I look over at my mom, and my mom and dad are sitting next to each other in these chairs right next to my bed, and they're talking to each other, and they just look weird. Like, I don't know what it was, but I know what it was. It was the acid, but they just looked fucking weird. Like, my mom's glasses like looked like they were triangle shaped, and like her whole face was morphed. It looked like one side of her face was higher than the other, like she was on some like Two-Face shit. My dad just looked funky. I don't know. And it was really weird. And I looked at my mom, and I was just staring at her, and she just looks at me and she's like, hey, and I'm just like, hi. Like, I'm just staring at her. Like, she asked me, I remember, like, she didn't really say much because there was not really much to be said. We all knew what had occurred, what was going on. But she just goes, are you okay? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm cool. And like, I start laughing. And I look over at my dad, and I look back at my mom. And I don't know what drove me to ask this. I don't know what made me think this would be the right thing to say, but I asked my mom, I was like, is he my real dad? Like, out of nowhere. I knew he was, for a fact, but for some reason when I was tripping, I just had to question it. I was just like, is this guy my real dad? Like, I asked my mom, and she's like, she kind of looks at my dad and then looks back at me and starts laughing a little bit. And she's like, it was like a nervous laugh, not like a funny laugh. And like, she was like, yes, he is. And I was just like, oh, that sucks. I look back at the ceiling and just keep staring there. And like, at this point, my dad is visibly pissed, but doesn't say anything because I'm just shit-faced. So I assume that's why he didn't say anything. And my mom's just kind of laying there. And at this point, I still had a long time left until I came down. You know, not really much happened. So I'm going to kind of skip over most of the hospital because I was just strapped into a bed tripping balls. Like, it wasn't fun. It was horrible. And then at one point, I remember they had all left the room and they left me in there alone and turned the lights off. Okay, like my parents both left, the nurses left. I was alone in the room with the lights off, tripping balls, strapped to a hospital bed. Now, can you imagine how horrifying that was? And it wasn't like pitch black either. Like, there was the window in the hospital door, so like, or in the hospital like room, there was that little window by the door. So like, there was a little beam of light coming in, and like, it was terrifying. Like, I felt like I was dying. Like, I looked up at the ceiling and I was just like, all right, well, this is it. This is my last place. Dying in this hospital bed right now. This is it. I'm going. Peace out, guys. And I was just fucked. I can't even begin to explain how intense this was, guys. Like, I hope I'm describing it well enough, but I don't think I can ever describe it well enough to do it justice. You know, like, it was nuts. So I spent the whole following day after that. I didn't sleep all night. I was up all the next day. And at this point, this happened on Friday. And now it was Saturday. You know, it was like early in the morning. And I was coming down finally. You know, it was just after laying in that hospital bed, just tripping balls the whole time, just staring at the ceiling. Like, I didn't even want to watch TV. Like, they had a TV in there, but I just didn't turn it on. I was just like, my parents kept asking, like, do you want to watch TV? And I was just like, no, just leave me be. I don't want to watch TV. So finally, the morning rolls around. I'm finally coming down. You know, like, I'd kind of been coming down the whole time, but it wasn't really intense anymore. Like, I was just okay. Like, I felt a little lightheaded, but you know, seeing like kind of little bits and pieces of tripping stuff. Like, there weren't the faces in the ceiling anymore, but it was still just kind of wiggling and like, you know, looking a little off, like it shouldn't be. And you know, the morning rolled around, and I assumed after this I was just gonna go home. I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go home and you know, maybe be more careful next time I drop some acid. And that's not what happened. I assume you guys all know that. That's not at all what happened. So I don't know if this is like an everywhere thing or what. I don't know if this is like a just my county, my state, or what. I'm not familiar with it. But apparently, if you're under 18 and you go into the hospital for any drug-related thing or like a mental health thing, you get sent to the psych ward as a requirement. Like, it's mandatory. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So at least that's what my parents told me. Maybe they just finessed me into going. But either way, they told me I had no choice and it was mandatory and it wasn't their decision. It was required. But maybe they just finessed me. So either way, I'm sitting here and I'm like, what the fuck? You know, at this point I'm sober. I'm like, no, I'm not going to the psych ward. Fuck that. No, absolutely not. That's not happening. I'm going home. So, you know, I got up and like, I kept trying to find an opening to just walk out, like just run. But like, there was just security guards and nurses and shit. And like, I just knew that wasn't going to end well. And on top of that, like, where the fuck was I going to go? I didn't have my car. I was like barefoot. I had my socks, but like all my clothes were elsewhere. I was in like these hospital robes and my boxers. Like, it was chilly out. Like, I don't know where the fuck I was planning on going, but I just knew I wasn't planning on going to the psych ward. That was the one thing I knew. So, you know, I'm like, whatever, fuck it. I'll just go to the psych ward. You know, there's not much I can do to get out of this because they told me it was a requirement. I don't know if it is or not. Maybe they just finessed me, but that's what I heard. So either way, ambulance comes to transport me over to the psych ward. It's in like a completely different building, not really far at all. It's just like across the street. So the ambulance comes, they wheel me out to the ambulance, put me in back. The two EMT guys who are driving it are pretty chill. You know, they're just asking me questions, talking about stuff. They're talking about video games, asking me what games I play. You know, I told them about Call of Duty, you know, all that shit, Battlefield. They were like, you know, one of the guys actually played Battlefield 1. You know, he was like, oh yeah, you know, I just got that the other day. You know, it's pretty good. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's dope. You know, that's my homie. Shout out to that EMT. He was the man. But anyways, so finally I get to the psych ward. They wheel me in, and I'm just like, oh fuck. You know, oh fuck. And, you know, for those of you guys who've been around for a little while, back in like May of this year, I went to the psych ward again. And I did my little like 7-part story on that. I counted that as rehab because that was basically like all the rehab I'd gotten at that point. I no longer counted as rehab, but that whole old rehab series I did was based on my time, the first time I spent in the psych ward. So this was the same one I was going to again. So the same place Johnny Jesus was at, the same place all your favorite characters were at, So, and let me tell you, it was a fucking hoot this time. Not as much of a hoot as last time. It was a fucking hoot. So I get there, they do the intake stuff, yada yada, take my phone, take me into this back room and like cavity search me. Not literally, like they don't, just fucking shove shit up my ass, but like they put me in my hospital gowns and 2 guys come back there and they make me squat and start coughing, the usual, completely butt ass naked. They're like, drop your boxers to your ankles, take off all your other clothes, squat down and start coughing. So, I squat down, I cough a couple times. They're like, all right, you're good. And they assigned me to a room. Now, my first night, I had my room to myself. So it was pretty good, but it wasn't night yet. I'm going to get to that later. It was still daytime at this point. So, it was like maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon when I had gotten there. And I get there and they already give me a schedule and tell me, I got to go to all my groups, got to go to all the mandatory programming they have. They have a whole bunch of shit you have to do. Like they have like art therapy, music therapy, not good art or music therapy. It's shitty. They have like a bunch of random treatment groups. Most of the employees are dickheads. They're really strict. You're not allowed to leave your room without like asking. No doors on the room, no doors on the bathrooms. It's shit. So either way, I get in my room and I've got my clothes with me. I'm just unpacking my stuff, putting it on my little like shelf. There's 2 people per room and there's like no divider between both of us, the 2 people in the room. So like we each just get our own little shelf that we put our clothes on. So, I put all my clothes on my shelf and we're walking to group. Okay, where like I get called for group because apparently I got there like 10 minutes before group and they're like, all right, everyone come back to your groups. I have my schedule. I look, see what group I'm in. And I walk out of my room and I start heading towards the back where the groups are held. And there's a peculiar scent in the air. There's a very peculiar scent in the air. It just smelled bad, for lack of a better term. You'll understand why in a minute. So I keep walking down the hall. And the very last room on the right, where the rooms end, towards the back of the psych ward area, or at least the adolescent unit, where like the groups are held, there's this kid who has a room on his own. And the kids who are put in the single bed rooms are usually the kids who are like schizophrenic, have psychosis, or are just a danger to themselves or others, stuff like that. And this kid had 24/7 supervision. Like staff was always in his room. Staff would sit outside the bathroom and he had no bathroom door. Like he never was unsupervised at any time. Staff would literally sit in his room while he slept and watch him sleep. Like this kid had no freedom. And it was understandable. I'm walking by and one of the staff comes running out of the room and has latex gloves on, okay? And he's running out. He's got his nose plugged. And he yells, he's got his little walkie-talkie, and he yells on the walkie-talkie. He goes, I'm not going to say the guy's name. I'm going to try to, let's see, we're going to call him Noah. He grabs the walkie-talkie, and he's like, Noah just defecated on the floor again. And I hear him say this before I pass the room. Like, I'm coming up to it, but I hear him say this before I pass it. I'm just like, oh my fucking God. What have I gotten myself into? So I walk past the room. This kid's just popping a squat in the hallway taking a shit, like the little corridor in his room. He's just shitting on the floor. Like there's no better way to put it. Just very bluntly, he was ripping a shit on the floor. So I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening here? Like it's my first like hour here and this kid's already dumping on the floor. Like what have I gotten myself into? So, of course, the rest of the staff comes back there, and apparently I learned later on that was his way of rebelling. If he didn't like something or he was pissed, he would just shit on the floor in any given location. Like, I wish I was kidding because it was repulsive, but, like, he would really only do it in his room, and at least during my stay, I was only there when he did it in his room. Like, I never saw him shit anywhere else, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I mean, he was just that kind of guy, He was the kid who, like, in elementary school, when you go in the stalls and kids would have shit smeared on the stall walls, like, you go into those really dirty bathrooms. He's the kid who probably caused that. Like, I could totally see him just, like, ripping a dump in the toilet and just throwing it at the fucking mirror, Like, he's that guy. So, anyways, I'm just disgusted at this point. I'm just like, oh my God, like, what is happening? And it disgusts me especially because I'm like a super hygienic guy. Like I shower twice a day. I make sure I'm clean. I never miss showers. I shower daily. It's like, I'm super into like hygiene. Like I always make sure I'm clean. I don't like being dirty. So like just having this guy just shit on the floor is just like, oh God, like, fuck, just fuck, for lack of a better term. So, we go back to group. There's just a bunch of kids in there. I was the oldest kid there by a long shot. There was not a single other 17-year-old in this unit. The second oldest kid there, she had like just turned 16. Like I'm pretty sure she was a sophomore. So it was a very huge age gap. And the last time I'd been there was kids my age. There was even a kid that I'd known previously from school. So like, it wasn't bad because I had people to talk to and people I could relate with and friends. This time, the average age of kids was like 12 to 13. And I'm sitting here 17, grown as shit compared to these kids. And I'm just like, wow, this sucks. I get in my group and just see all these young ass kids. I'm just like, this is going to be fucked. Like, this is going to suck. First you got the floor shitter. Now I'm the oldest kid here by a landslide. Like, what can possibly go wrong any further? Like, how could this get any worse is basically what I was thinking. So, we're sitting in group. I don't remember exactly what group it was. It was like DBT or some bullshit. I don't know. But, I sit through that group, don't really say anything. They do intros, and they ask me to introduce myself and say what my drug of choice was. So I'm like, hi, I'm Nick. My drug of choice was weed and acid. Nice to fucking meet you all little shits. Like, fuck you. I was not happy to be there, but I didn't say that. I made it look like I was happy to be there in the hopes that I would get out sooner. So, I'm sitting there, sitting through group, and finally dinner time rolls around. So, dinner time happens, go to the cafeteria. Well, actually, no, my first day, let me backtrack. My first day, I didn't get to go to the cafeteria. I almost forgot that. On the first day, you have to stay on the unit. You don't get to, like, leave the unit to go to the cafeteria or go to the gym or anything. So, at this point, and by the way, the gym isn't anything nice. It's like a school gym, except all they have is 2 basketballs and, like a volleyball net. So, it kind of sucked. But either way, so they bring me my food. I didn't really get to order anything. I didn't get to like ask what I got. That's just how it works when you're stuck on the unit. So I got, what the fuck? I don't remember what I got. It was something gross though. I remember that. I remember not eating shit. Like I drank the carton of milk and I just brought my tray out, and like I remember after I'd finished like drinking my milk and I brought the tray out, one of the employees who was sitting there, they make you throw away all your silverware even though it's plastic. Like apparently because kids are like making shanks out of them and cutting themselves or cutting others, shit like that. So, you have to show them all your silverware and show them that you're throwing it away. And then you got to show them your tray. And, I show this bitch my tray and she's like, why didn't you eat anything? And, I'm like, I'm not hungry. This didn't look very good. I'm straight. And she's like, well, you have to eat. Apparently if you choose not to eat a meal, they just view that as you have an eating disorder, and God forbid you're fucking gonna binge later and you're gonna die. So, you have to eat. So like the lady like looks at me and she's like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to report that you didn't eat. And I'm like, okay, like I don't give a shit. Go for it. I don't really fucking care. So put my tray on the little like tray cart thing where you leave it when you're done eating, go back to my room. And, after dinner's pretty chill. I got in there at, pretty early in the afternoon. So this one was probably like 6 o'clock maybe. We ate dinner around like 5:30. So it was maybe 6 o'clock at this point. And the rest of the night was pretty relaxed. I didn't really leave my room very much. I just kind of like laid around and read books. That's all I did. They have like this little tiny book selection, and they're all like little kids books. They're not like super good books or anything. They don't got no Stephen King in that bitch, but they got stuff. So I just went and I read like Diary of a Fucking Wimpy Kid my first night, dude. I felt like a little kid again. It was magical. I laid there reading that, finished the whole book in I don't know, like 2 fucking hours or something. I was just bored as hell at this point. And that was really my whole first night. I just kind of laid around, read, watched the kids shit on the floor, and then discovered that I was the oldest kid there by a landslide, So I'm going to cut it off right there. Getting pretty long at this point, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did. And also, don't forget my PSN and my P.O. Box address will both be in the description and the comment section below. So hit me up, send me some mail, add me on PSN. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Peace.